My 26 female, mom passed away a few years ago. During that time, we discovered that my dad had been cheating on her with a girl my age. His whole family disowned him and cut contact with him, except for me. I guess that at the time, I wasn't ready to let go of both my parents at the same time. But over these last 5 years, I've been able to let go to the point I only see them, twice or thrice a month. It's like I have no family left. Don't get me wrong, I also blame the girl for what happened. But the responsibility toward my mom and me was my dad's, not hers. They eventually had my half-sister, toddler. From what I've heard and know, my dad and his wife are living paycheck to paycheck, on a budget, and in a rental home since everyone in the family changed their will. Both my grandparents and my mom. My dad won't get the house because it was an eventual inheritance from my grandparents. But since she died first, I'm the sole benefactor from both sides, since my paternal grandparents skipped my dad. Now, 2 days ago, I went to visit him because it was his birthday, and he said he and his wife wanted to talk to me. I was like, yeah, okay. Then they said they wanted me to be the legal guardian of my half-sister in case something happened to them, mainly because I'll have the means for it. My dad's wife's parents can only care for her, but to a minor extent, and I'll have the money needed to take care of an innocent child. I said no, not for the money, but because I didn't want to. I'm not close to my sister, and currently I don't see nor want myself taking care of a child, much less one that is reminiscent of my mom's last heartbreak. So I said I was willing to pass along a monthly check, like a child support payment, but less than that since she's not my kid. But that was the only thing I was willing to do. My dad cried, saying that she was his baby, and I could be a good sister like I was raised to be, but I just laughed and said that he was no one to talk about good and wrong, and he and his wife should have thought of that before cheating. His wife called me a monster and kicked me out of the house. I left. Later that night, I sent my dad a text, informing him of my decision to cut ties with him completely, and that from now on, will be no contact unless it's an emergency. He's begging me to reconsider, but I don't know if I'm right or wrong. Not the idiot. They were just getting started. The first step was to get you to agree to be her guardian if something happened to them. Once they have established that you care about your half-sister and want to help her, then they'll ask you to buy her extra clothes for her birthday or take her school shopping. Then they'll ask for help because they're short on rent and must ensure their half-sister isn't homeless. Run and don't look back. I agree with everything you said, especially the asking for money and inheritance. It won't be long until they need a place to live and want to move into OP's home. Hun, your dad is with a girl your age. Got her pregnant while she was like 20? She'll be around for a good while, hopefully. Who knows? Does she not have a family either? So they can deal with whatever your father and his wife have going on. It's even better. When OP's paternal grandparents pass, they would ask for the inheritance house because it was supposed to be Dad's anyway. OP, your father has not been responsible his whole life and wants to stick you with the half-sister. How about no? Send her off to your dad's wife. It's her responsibility. It's her family's bloodline. Honestly suspicious, like they want to dump the kid on you and run away. Money. OP is the one who will be inheriting everything. Dad gets nothing. This is just a way for him to get a toe in the door. OP, good on you for not getting caught on a slippery slope. Looking past the fact that your dad was cheating in your mom's final moments, he's an idiot. He's trying to put the responsibility onto you and using you. See how you only talk to him twice or thrice a month. He comes to see you because he wants a favor. You don't need to take care of that child at all. I, 18 female, teach preschool and babysit on the side. I'm a pretty well-known babysitter in my town and the neighboring town, and I'm booked through November. I can charge a little more than other babysitters in the area because I have a lot of experience. I've worked at summer camps, babysat, and have taught since June. I'm CPR and first aid certified, and the whole teaching thing makes my parents think you're a lot more qualified. In reality, I just called the preschool, asked if they were hiring, scheduled my interview for the next day, and was hired on the spot after a 10-minute interview. There are also only a few babysitters available because I live in a small town, population 7,000, and most teens don't work. I babysit a lot of my students. One of my students' moms texted me the other day and asked if I could babysit for a week in December. Of course, I said yes and set up a time to call her to talk about my rates and availability. This woman has 4 kids, all under 5, and her younger 2 aren't potty trained, so I told her I'd charge $40 per hour. I know this woman has a history of underpaying her babysitters, so I went a little higher than what I normally charge in preparation for some negotiation. She told me she pays her current babysitter $15 and asked if I could do that. I said no, and she started acting like I needed the babysitting job because teachers are underpaid and I only teach 15 hours a week. We ended the call and she called me the next day, offering $20 and saying this was my last chance. I told her then she clearly needed a babysitter more than I needed this job and not to call me back unless she was willing to pay at least $35. She told me she'd tell the other preschool parents how rude I was and hung up. I know for a fact she did tell some parents because one texted me later that day saying she heard I have an opening for a week in December. My grandma says I should have been more willing to negotiate, but my mom says she should have either paid my rate or left me alone. I'm feeling kind of bad about the whole thing, so I wanted to know if I was the idiot. Not the idiot. If my 18-year-old daughter came home and told me she did the same thing, I would treat her to a special dinner. Many girls and women struggle with knowing and embracing their value, so I think it's amazing that you do. I wouldn't have blamed you for going up in price simply because she was so difficult. Oh, I'm sorry. I charge a 25% markup whenever parents are condescending to me. I read this and was like, wait, this lady comments on teachers being underpaid, so she wants to underpay OP again? That's nice of her. And I had to laugh that another parent heard her bad-mouthing you, and their reaction was, OMG, OP has availability. I'd better jump right on that. That shows you're a good babysitter asking for a reasonable rate. She was attempting to manipulate you into taking an offensively low hourly wage. 4 kids, 2 in diapers, with the super shady way she pitched it? Clearly, everyone is happy with you based on their request, and that should be very telling over one bad apple. Just be grateful you didn't take the job, because I suspect she's the kind of person who would find something wrong to try and get a free job and badmouth you. I, female 29, live in Australia. I moved to Australia 5 years ago to move in with my Australian long-distance boyfriend at the time. He's now my husband, and I'm now officially an Australian citizen. I'm originally from Britain, and the rest of my family lives there. My husband and I own a house with a spare bedroom, and over the past 4 years, I've allowed my older sister, Becky, 35, and her husband and kids to vacation at our home, except during 2020, when there were travel restrictions. They are in love with Australia and are very grateful to visit here. This year, they visited last month for 2 weeks. Becky and her husband took the spare bedroom, and their kids had air mattresses in the living room. They had a great time, and it was all very pleasant. But the day after they left, I noticed that Becky and her husband completely trashed the spare room. There were food wrappers, crumbs, and plastic bottles all over the floor, food stains all over the bed, weird marks on the furniture that weren't there before, and an awful rotting smell in the room that we couldn't get rid of. I texted Becky the pictures of the room and said that this was not okay. Becky said she was sorry and said she and her husband were in holiday mode and just wanted to relax. I told her that my husband and I weren't her maids and said that she and her family were not allowed to come back next year. Becky said I'm being irrational and that it was just a little mess. I told her I didn't care and that it was mine and my husband's home and we didn't want it to be treated that way. Becky got our parents involved and they accused me of thinking that I was better than everyone and said that I was being unfair to Becky. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. While they're on vacation mode, you're not. That's your home. You bought those furnishings in that home with your hard-earned money. She behaved like a pig and left a sty. If she did that to a hotel room, she would be forced to pay for damages. Anyone complaining can pay for your sister's future hotel bill. LOL, not wanting your place trashed Means you think you're better than everyone? I guess we know who the golden child is. She's old enough to know it's really rude to trash someone's place, especially when she's staying for free. But it seems like even her children have better manners than her. Even when I'm staying in a hotel, I try to clean up my mess a bit. But unfortunately, she's an entitled idiot and won't even acknowledge she was wrong. So no, she doesn't get to stay with you again. If she wants to get others involved, send them the pics and ask. So if she did this to your home, then you'd be okay? 'Cause if so, I'll come visit and stay with you and do the same since it's okay. Holiday mode only works if you've paid someone for housekeeping. Guaranteed that Becky didn't give the parents the full story. Oh, we just left some empty bottles that we forgot to grab on our way out, etc. My 32 female ex-husband, Mark, 34, and I have 3 children together, 2 boys and 1 girl. They're all tweens, triplets. Our daughter's name is Ellie, and she's always been much more sensitive than her brothers. She just behaved differently than they did, and in the beginning I dismissed it as the boys being identical and her being the fraternal triplet. But with time I realized it was more than that. Ellie was eventually diagnosed as autistic when she was 4. She's a very sweet and very quiet kid. She doesn't talk very much, and she absolutely hates too much sound. Anytime we have to go somewhere, I bring her noise-canceling headphones and a few of her favorite toys, just in case the headphones don't help. Lately, when she has a meltdown, it dissolves into a panic attack, and then she'll just be completely nonverbal for a day or 2. I hate seeing her go through that, so I do everything to help her manage and avoid her triggers when possible. Mark thinks I coddle her too much, and that my efforts to help her avoid meltdowns and sensory overloads are actually just giving in to her tantrums. He's gotten better about the mindset since his girlfriend Marissa, 33, moved in with him, but sometimes he and I still argue about it. It's supposed to be his week with the kids, so I was just at home catching up on some cleaning when one of my sons called me on Marissa's cell. He said that Ellie had shut herself in her closet and refused to come out, and their dad was getting upset with her about it. So I asked him to put his dad on the phone. Mark immediately told me he could handle Ellie's fits and that our son shouldn't have grabbed Marissa's phone to call me. Still, I told him I at least wanted to talk about what had triggered Ellie to begin with, and I wanted to talk to her as well, just to see if she was okay. He said Ellie was refusing to talk and that he'd call me back when she decided to start speaking again. As soon as she hung up on me, I grabbed my keys and drove over to his house. Marissa let me in, and I went upstairs where he was lecturing Ellie through the door, and I could hear her sniffling. Mark looked angry to see me, but the boys were standing there, so he didn't say anything about it. Eventually, I got Ellie to come out of the closet, and she burst into tears and begged me to take her home. She wouldn't let go of my hand and didn't want to go anywhere near her dad. I knew she'd probably lock herself away again if I left without her, so I told Mark that if she was feeling better in the morning, I'd bring her back. He texted me a few times after we left, saying I ruined his time with Ellie, and the reason she hates it over there is that I always come to her rescue. I told my mom about it, and she thinks I shouldn't interfere with the kids when they're with their dad, even if there's an issue, because I'd hate it if he did the same thing to me. Not the idiot, mate. He's abusing her. He's refusing to take care of her disability and trying to force her to act normal. He's verbally abusing her whenever she has a meltdown. I wouldn't be surprised if that's why she has panic attacks. If you send her back, you will be a huge idiot, and you'll be an enabler in her abuse. Catering to a child's disability as a parent is not optional. It's a need, and not to is neglect. If your child isn't in therapy, she needed to be yesterday, and you need to bring this up with a therapist. Imagine if Ellie had to use a wheelchair, and then her dad refused to build a ramp and yelled at her when she couldn't use the stairs. And then when you suggest building a ramp, he says that'll just give in to her neediness and make her less likely to learn how to walk. That's what her dad's doing to her now. It's just harder to visualize the obstacles because we can't see them. Dad is a huge idiot. Mom needs to figure this out. I know going to court is expensive, but it's cheaper than the permanent toll on her child. It'll be cheaper than the cost of all the therapy she'll need if she's forced into this environment. He is your ex for a reason. He's not going to magically be a different person when interacting with your children. Let Mark be angry because he's angry he doesn't have permission to hurt her. Be your child's guardian and guard them. My husband and I have different tastes when it comes to food. That's perfectly fine. However, lately, whenever we go out to a restaurant, we both order different dishes. Then he suddenly asks to eat from my dish and would throw a fit if I refuse. He's done this several times, and I snapped at him and told him to stop asking and order from the same dishes if he wanted it so bad. Last night, we went out for dinner and ordered different dishes. Before we made the order, I asked if he was sure about the dish he picked, and he said yes. The food arrived and each of us had our plates and started eating. Literally minutes later, he asked if he could eat from my dish. I looked at him like, "Are you serious right now?" He went on about how he couldn't resist the dish's looks and wanted to try it. I refused and said no. I kept eating and he kept pushing until I blew up, and he suddenly got quiet. He then got up and walked out. He was furious with me and picked an argument at home when I returned. He said that I acted petty and that all he asked for was a few bites for my meal, and I chose to make a scene and yell and embarrass him instead. We're not speaking to each other right now because of what happened. I feel crappy about it, and I think I could have just let him have some of the food instead of choosing that silly hill to die on. Edit. We pay for our meals separately. Joey doesn't share food. LOL. That's a reference from the show Friends if you don't know, but to be serious, you've already stated your preferences and boundaries. You don't like it when he asks for food off your plate. If anything, it's silly and rude of him to continue to ask when he knows you don't like it. It's kind of petty though on your part. Most people don't care to share or offer a bite. So if that's all he's asking for is a bite, you're the idiot. But if he wants a larger share of your food, definitely not the idiot. It's the fact that he throws a tantrum when you say no that makes him the idiot. However, your marriage doesn't sound like it's all put together yet. Not gonna lie, kinda weird to know that you pay for your meals separately, but also that he's childish enough to walk out when he doesn't get his way. Everyone who doesn't understand, let me explain to you. Partners who do this after being told no don't want the food. They just want to take it from you. It's a test to see how far they can push your boundaries. It seems so simple until you look at how it blew up into a fight. If it were so innocent, a fight wouldn't have happened. This is a power play, and he's furious that she isn't giving in. This sounds like a symptom of a larger problem. Do you even like each other? Recently, my friend's husband did the same thing because he wanted to cheat. He did everything to make his wife crazy, and then told her that they must separate for a while due to her bad character. He lied, of course, that this had nothing to do with cheating. He just needed time to think. But he cheated with at least 2 people that my friend knows about, maybe more. Since this food issue is a relatively new development, I have to wonder if it's something like this, because it sounds very intentional. This happened 1 month ago, but I've only managed to be fine now. My husband didn't have a good relationship with the family because he married a man. He came from a wealthy family, and the house we lived in was a gift from his parents before he came out. We dated for 3 years until he discovered he was terminally ill, so we married because it was our dream. It was something very rushed yet beautiful, and we even tried to invite his parents. The answer was no. He knew the nature of his parents and asked me to make it a specific type of civil marriage so I'd be entitled to everything he had before and after the wedding. If it was the other way, the parents would be entitled to things in his name acquired before the marriage. This is protected by law. The party was wonderful with our closest friends. My sweet husband survived for 9 months and finally had his well-deserved rest. I was numb. Despite having prepared for months for this moment, I couldn't even stay in the house, so my mother took me to sleep at her house for a few days. I got a notification from the home security system 6 days after his passing, and I went to see the cameras. My husband's entire family was there with a big truck, ready to move our stuff. His sister, he trusted, had a spare key because she took care of our animals when we were traveling, and they used it. So I went there, and I admit that I blew up, cursed even the 10th generation of the family, and even more so to my sister-in-law. They started to say that they were entitled to everything because the house and furniture were all acquired before the marriage, and that I shouldn't act surprised if, by law, they can take it all, and until court, they would keep it, so I don't sell anything. I cursed even more, and said they had no right because my husband knew how they were very well, and assured me that everything went to me. I talked about the civil marriage type. They were surprised and started to say that this was incorrect, because at least the house was theirs, as it was given as a gift. But they left after I said I would call the police if they didn't leave, and kept harassing me about the matter. I had to swap numbers because I had several numbers saying I was an opportunistic gold digger and should be aware that this house truly didn't belong to me. I know I'm protected by law, but sometimes I wonder if I just shouldn't give up my house for peace. Am I the idiot? Edit, the house is in his name. Not the idiot. These people are despicable. I'm so sorry for your loss. Your husband protected you and expressed his wishes for his property. His family's not owed anything, including basic respect, after how they behaved. You should take care of yourself now. Grief is a long journey. Forget them. They're not worth a second thought. I wonder if I shouldn't give up my house for peace. Peace with whom? The parents who couldn't be bothered to go to their own son's wedding? Or the sister-in-law who, unannounced, shows up at your house that your husband legally left you 6 days after he passed away with others to loot your place? Jesus, there will never be peace here, so I see no reason for you to give up your house. Do get a good attorney, though. Agree. Don't you dare give anything to those leeches. The only thing that would come out of it is you would hurt yourself. You should have immediately called the cops for theft and trespassing if you know the law's on your side. Never let them hold on to something for safekeeping either. You probably don't have an itemized list of everything in the house, so how would you even know if nothing was stolen? Even if you are wrong, and you're not, but if, anyway, the family doesn't get to show up and start taking things. If there was a will, then it's the executor's job to dole out things according to the will after properly doing the legal paperwork. No matter what, no one's legally allowed to touch or take anything until the will is read. In fact, a complete account of everything is needed before anything goes to anybody. You should have called the police as soon as the alarm went off. They're acting this way because they're homophobic. Do not give these people even an ounce of your time. Block them and continue handling your grief. Your husband wanted you to have it, and it's legally yours. That's all that matters. If they harass you, get restraining orders on them, then change the locks and file a police report. My 43 female, mom 67, Kathy, has a friend, no idea but older than dirt, Denise. I'm currently working 2 hours away from my home office and staying in a 3-bedroom apartment paid for by my employer. The apartment is 1 hour from my mom's place and somewhere she visits frequently. My job is very stressful with long hours, so needless to say, when I get home, I want to chill out. My mom asked if she could stay for one night. I of course said yes, as I love spending time with her, but she didn't tell me that she was bringing Denise, who I can't stand. They have now stayed 3 nights. They rocked up. Denise turned on the TV and said she had to watch a TV show she couldn't miss. There was a TV in her room, but she wanted to watch it in the lounge on the big TV. My mom said I should watch TV in my room. Denise has taken over my apartment. I can't do what I want to do, and I feel uncomfortable and can't relax. Denise is not paying for any meals as my mom invited her on her holiday. Denise has used my ensuite bathroom and left a mess, which I needed to clean. Tonight my mom said that they would come back next week as she wants more time on her holiday, and her friend agreed. I lost my temper and said that this is not your holiday and you're not welcome back. I told them I didn't want Denise here and she was mooching off of my mom and me. My mom is now upset and is calling me ungrateful and rude. I don't think I'm the idiot, but did I go too far? Not the idiot. OMG, they invaded your home, made a mess for you to clean, and act entitled to use your place as a vacation home when you're trying to work? What are they expecting you to be grateful for? For keeping me company. My mom struggles to be alone at night and expects everyone else to be the same. I love being alone. My entire day is talking, so it's a break. Your mom and her friend are totally out of touch with reality. You're in an apartment paid for by your employer for work. Your mom asks to come and visit for one night, then shows up with someone else who you can't stand and who immediately takes over your apartment as if it was hers. Set a firm boundary with your mom. She is welcome to visit for agreed on lengths of time, but is to bring no one else with her without your express approval. I wouldn't even let mom visit again after this, honestly. Kick them both out immediately. Change the locks if you have to. It's hysterical that your mom thinks you are the ungrateful one. You're too old to be letting your mom dictate your life. Tell them they have to leave today. I, 35 male, have a daughter, tween, with my ex-wife, Carrie, 36. Carrie and I met senior year of high school, dated throughout college, and had our daughter whenever she was in law school. Initially, it was great, but after Carrie joined her firm, everything went to crap. I accepted that her job would require long hours, but it got worse, and I was doing almost all the baby. She would just come home late, eat, watch TV, and go to bed, would show me no affection most nights. I felt like a live-in nanny, and I was working full-time too. I tried communicating, only to get lawyer talk back. All we would talk about was her work and the baby, nothing about us or my job or life. I filed for divorce 4 years ago. Carrie went off about it whenever I informed her. She wanted to try therapy, something I had suggested for years. In my opinion, she was most upset about losing her childcare arrangement and personal chef. Carrie has become the woman empowerment type in the last few years. She wants our daughter to be independent and successful, which I'm fine with, obviously, but she's gone too far. She's got that short haircut and all the t-shirt slogans now. She's active on social media about causes. Good for her for finding a hobby, but I don't want that for my daughter. I don't bring that crap into my house. I raise my daughter to be whoever she wants. She can respect men and be independent. She can become a successful businesswoman or a wife and mother. She's just too young to be putting all this pressure on her. I've been dating Lainey, 28 female, for 2.5 years. She and my daughter are very close. Lainey is more of the conservative home builder type. Lainey has a couple of tattoos and wants to get one of me, my daughter, and her on her arm sleeve. We're talking about marriage. She's free to do whatever she wants with her body. I asked my daughter if she was okay with it, and she loved the idea. She and Lainey are working on the design together, and it's bonding them more. I love it personally. My ex-wife found out and scolded me. She had an issue with how I'm raising my daughter and how my girlfriend is promoting tattoos. She also said that I don't care about my daughter because I don't help her study, which I told her wasn't true. We do the homework quickly so we can hang out and actually enjoy life, not shove our faces in books. Her grades are still great, just not all A's, so yes, education's important, but so is family. I told Carrie she's free to raise our daughter however she wants to at her place, but our house is about being a family and not being a cold robot. So maybe she should look in the mirror and ask why her daughter likes her stepmom so much. I'm not going to turn our daughter cold, and Lainey can get whatever tattoos she wants. She called me an idiot and threatened to contact my attorney. I laughed and hung up. Am I the idiot? I feel like there's a lot missing from this post. However, just based on your description of your ex alone, it makes me feel like there's more to this story. Also, it's very off-putting that your girlfriend wants to put a picture of you and your daughter's faces on her body. And if I were your wife, I would be concerned too. I also find it hilarious that the daughter is too young for women's empowerment, but is somehow mature enough to consent to have her likeness permanently tattooed on someone's body. If she's too immature to be exposed to feminism in OP's mind, how is she mature enough to understand what she's consenting to? You are the idiot, especially if you talk about your daughter's mother like this where she can hear it. You say you're raising her to be whoever she wants, but your descriptions here are extremely far from value neutral. Putting effort into schoolwork isn't living like a robot. It's important. You aren't doing your daughter any favors. Right? I mean, the short haircut and not bring that crap into the house? So condescending. If he patted himself on the back any harder, he'd break his arm. I hope he doesn't share the idiot attitude he has toward his ex with his daughter. Everyone's the idiot here. You and your ex-wife are a hot mess, and your kid will suffer. Get it together. The opinions you express about women and their roles are concerning, and even as a stranger, I'm worried about the long-term safety of your daughter. Your new partner's planning to get a tattoo of your face makes me question her judgment and the health of your relationship. Be real. How comfortable would you be if your wife's new partner, who they aren't even engaged to, much less married, got a tattoo of your daughter's face on his shoulder? I regularly cook meals for them so they have enough to eat for the work and school week. I'm no chef, but I can cook basic meals like chicken, pork, steak, mac and cheese, lasagna, etc. I recently learned how to make Chinese food, Italian food, and Korean cuisine. My hubby is Italian, so I wanted to try to give him something reminiscent of his culture. There are times, however, that despite all the food in the house, and having finished grocery shopping and cooking a hefty dinner the night before, they complain that there's nothing to eat. There were moments when, despite having food in the house, they would order McDonald's from Uber under my nose. For those who assume my cooking's bad, I always ask for feedback after each meal. I, for the most part, get good feedback, and I take it into account to improve. I really try to meet everyone's needs, but it's hard sometimes. I just got finished grocery shopping, so there's plenty to eat in the house. I cooked about a dozen or so ribeye steaks with sweet potatoes, macaroni and cheese, cauliflower au gratin, and a salad. My fridge is almost packed with dinner for the week, as well as staples for cereal, boxed dinners, and sandwiches we can make ourselves. My son was looking around, rummaging through the kitchen like he was scavenging for buried treasure, complaining that he was hungry and couldn't find anything to eat. I told him there was still food in the fridge that he could eat. I told him he could make a sandwich. He then told me he didn't want any and wanted McDonald's. I told him that if he doesn't want the food we have in the house, then he's not really hungry. I said the same thing to my husband right after they ordered fast food again. He said that my food was great, but sometimes he just feels like ordering McDonald's, and sometimes he doesn't want to eat the same thing every day. We had to fight about it, and I told him that I felt hurt and that hearing our son doing this makes me feel like I'm not doing a good job. And if they were really hungry, they could eat what's in the house. He tells me I'm being ridiculous. I really want to be a good wife and mom and give them a life that I wish I had. I grew up in a struggling family with almost nothing to eat, and now I'm in a position where no one has to worry about it. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. You don't cook 12 steaks for 3 people and expect them to eat that for the rest of the week. If you buy in bulk, you make 4 packages of 3 steaks each. You cook 1 meal now and freeze the rest so you can have another steak dinner in a week or 2. I grew up impoverished, and I love filet mignon now that I can afford it once in a while, but even I wouldn't cook myself 4 fillets and eat them all week. It sounds like ordering fast food a couple of times a week is not a financial hardship for your family. It additionally sounds like you're cooking in bulk and expecting your family to eat the same thing for multiple meals. And finally, nowhere do you indicate that your husband has asked you to take on that burden, or that he would be upset if you cooked less frequently. Stop cooking in such a large volume and plan for a couple of days of takeout. If you want to go above and beyond for your family, listen to what they actually want, not just what you think they should want. Not the idiot OP. He's an idiot for complaining and letting your son complain, rather than expressing appreciation and not saying that he sometimes wants McDonald's. Hand each of them a pot and a recipe book and tell them to plan and prepare dinners for a couple of weeks. They may gain a better appreciation of your efforts. Better yet, maybe they'll learn to cook. So my stepmother has this tradition her family does regarding weddings where all the sisters wear the same piece from a family member's wedding outfit. Typically, it's something from your mother or grandmother's wedding. My stepmother and all her sisters wear their mother's veil. Stepmother's nieces, by her older sister, all wear their mother's wedding pearls. You get the picture. I'm engaged, and my stepmother sat me, my stepsister, and my half-sister down to discuss what our item would be. I told her I was planning to wear something of my mom's, which would be all the extras I would wear. She told me it was an important tradition to continue. I told her it was very nice of her to think of me, but it wasn't my tradition. She then said the simple answer would be to let them wear the necklace when their wedding days come around. They thought that was a great idea and said that if it was the piece they thought it was the most beautiful thing ever and they'd love to wear it. I said that wasn't going to happen and that it was a piece of my mom I could have during my wedding since I couldn't have her. My not wanting to do this tradition has caused some arguing. My step and half-sister were upset I wouldn't do it with them. My stepmother's upset that I don't want to embrace a tradition from her family. The tradition has no interest to me at all, and I would never share something of my mom's with my half or stepsister. My dad tried to talk me into it. He told me it would mean so much, and that didn't I want to finally feel like they were my mom and sisters, instead of having step and half in front of their titles? I told him no, that I have a mom, and her being dead doesn't change that, or mean that I need to see someone else as my mom too. My stepmother told me she's always tried to make me a genuine part of her family, a true daughter, and I'm an idiot for rejecting that as an adult when it doesn't just hurt her, but my sisters as well. Am I the idiot for not wanting to do this? Not the idiot, definitely. They can keep their traditions. It's lovely that you want to have a connection with your mom. Have the wedding you want and can afford. Never let anyone sit you down to discuss anything. Allowing someone to sit you down is giving them authority and power over you that they don't have. You may agree to discuss something with them, but on equal terms. The necklace is from your birth mother. If I read this right, your stepmother wants you to share the necklace from your birth mother. I'm sorry, but the second wife and her child want to wear your dead mom's jewelry? I wouldn't let the others wear it. Your half-siblings don't know her. The tradition sounds nice, but in this situation, it should be something from the stepmother, meaning the stepmother should give something of hers to the kids. Firmly tell them all that you don't plan to participate in the tradition, and that's final. Ignore their complaints. Anytime they bring it up, say you've made your decision and change the subject. I bet they want it because it's the most beautiful piece ever. This has been stepmom's endgame all along.